What is going on? TEC TNT here, bringing you week 3 now of the TEC weekly recap. As always, don't take any of this seriously. Most of it is a joke. Some of it has some mild amounts of actual feedback, but for the most part, it is intent on just what I see in the game and what I feel like making jokes about. So please keep that in mind. With that out of the way, we begin as always in Asia Slash with our first game of the week, Amarillo against Nilla. Nilla won 4-0, and when there's no Kartana, there's a way. Isn't that right, Nilla? A great bounce back from last week, spearheaded by a Heatran 1v1ing slow roll on the lead. Power Solar Beam was heat. It was a very well played game from that end, and Amarillo had a nice taunt set. AV mix is not something that is seen often from the regen bird. Well played from both. Nilla won this one with prep. Our next game is Max against Mav against Namdu. Mav won 4-0. So Valley Electric and Bolton were both brought to the same game. What was the thought process, Mav? Seriously, please DM me that prep. It actually worked. It's not really a heat set, but it's definitely a heat bring. Also, you got bailed out big time by rolls and misses. You probably didn't lose that game, but the RNG was certainly worth some differential. Tough luck for Namdu, but the first roll was an especially bad risk to take. Oren versus Pulsey. Pulsey won 3-0, and that was not like you, Oren. Well played from Pulsey. I did not know that Donphan got ice shot and that won the game, but Oren really handed the early game straight to Pulsey. A few of those plays were real head scratchers. This is why we don't play tired, Oren. 2 a.m. prep is best prep, but 2 a.m. play is most definitely not best play. Next up, we have Jake against Orange. What did I just watch? Was that a game of mons? It was clearly the blowout of the week. Orange seemed like he went into lose mode on preview. From there, he was playing loser's game with the possible exception of turns 10 and 11. Orange seems like he was just trying to lose as quickly as possible so he could move on from the matchup. Well played from Jake, but this match was just hard to watch. And Jake, good job. With this win, you avoid last week's rant. Next up, we have Yuk against JK. Yuk won 3-0, and we've got our set of the week. I just watched Uproar win a game. Uproar, less powerful special thrash? I simply can't comprehend the level of that prep. Preventing the rest lax with the ghost horse was very big brain of you, Yuk. This was a great game which was well played from both, and the prep came through in a big way for Yuk. Next up, we got Prison against Luca. Prison won 3-0. That Blaze play was a choice. I can see the logic, seeing how Weavile rarely runs a Scarf, but that was quite the risk to take with your best mon in the matchup. Flamethrower Burn accounted for at least one differential point, and could have very well led to a different game result. Also, the calc was being bad. A series of unfortunate events for Luca and opportunistic play from Prison led to this one. Next up, we have JTK against Keenan. Wow, a 3-0 game that came down to 1% on a Tangrowth to determine whether Cart runs the table. 2 Smart Strikes probably did the trick, but in an effort to save health on the Rocky Helmet, Knockoff was clicked first and the Tang lived the subsequent Smart Strike by a hair. Great end to a great game. JTK did a little bit of throwing mid-game to put himself in that position, but he almost recovered the win. Well played from both. Next up, we have Clash against Trevor. Clash won 2-0. And imagine drafting Pult and starting 0-3, and then trying to turn on timer to hurry your opponent. I'd rather have 100 ponage moments than trying to pull that timer BS. It wasn't even on at the beginning and forgotten or anything. That was deliberate. To put the icing on the cake, Trevor dropped immediately after this loss, earning him the award I hope to never give again, Clown of the Week. Clash played well on this one, my one issue being that Flareon should have been Flamethrower to better mimic Vaporeon with the Wish Prot Tox set. There's a reason Vap always runs variations of that set. In this game, the recoil ain't it, and special moves avoid Pharaoh's ability and item. Nitpick about my favorite fire type aside, great game from Clash. Taking Trevor's place from here on in is SPDL veteran unknown. Welcome to Asia Unknown. I look forward to seeing you play as a fellow former Burb Div member. Now we move to doublade, and we have John against Lucifer. Lucifer won 2-0, and nickname of the week goes to John's Magnezone. Don't leave me. That thing was magnet pull, wasn't it? Nice neck. This game was quite fun to watch, and back and forth with quite a few 50-50 decisions. Would I have made the same plays? No. Were the plays bad? Also no. This one was an interesting match that came down to a wire. That T-wave click would have gotten choke of the week if it missed. Next time, just pick the best move even if you think you're going down, because you really never know. Next, we got Braden against Freezerman. Braden won 1-0, and wow, that one was close. The decisions were a bit iffy, like trying to force the wisp on a special attacker after having an unfortunate miss wisp on the turn before. Wisp miss, geez, English is easy. But nothing was atrocious here. A fun game, even though both of the playstyles hurt me to watch. As a guy who loves momentum play, watching rocks be up on both sides the entire game and seeing only one pivot move clicked caused severe pain. Momentum best strat, use more pivots. Damn it! Next, we have Jerion against Chimp. Chimp won 2-0, but this game did not have a public replay, so here's a map of the various sailing routes taken by the various Crusader groups during the Fourth Crusade. It is a little-known fact that the Fourth Crusade's first goal was not Jerusalem, but rather to secure a base and supply line in the Nile River Delta in order to later attack the Muslims in the Holy Land, which it succeeded to an extent in doing, with a lesser-known group of Crusaders based out of Accra forcing Egypt into a Crusader-friendly peace agreement through a raid on the town of Fuwa in the Nile Delta. The more well-known portion of the crusade only sacked Byzantium due to the need to complete the rest of the payment to Venice for transport, due to some truly awful logistics from the Crusaders, and drastic overestimation of the amount of money in the Byzantine royal treasury. Make sure your replays are public, or next time I will bore you all with the disastrously mishandled logistics behind the Crusades needing to agree to help in Venice's self-benefiting raids in the Adriatic Sea, and about way too many Byzantine kings named Alexius. There were 3 of them within a year or 2. Make your replays public, or you will regret it. Next, we have Zach versus Dom. Zach won this one 1-0, and that was a close one. I thought Dom had the win, but through the sheer power of Rain being dumbly good for no real reason, Zach pulled this one out. I would have liked to see Webb's Galv as Rain counterplay, and maybe a bit more aggression on the reads to avoid sacks out of Dom, but overall this game was fairly well played from both. Next, we have woex against Findlay. woex won 1-0. Wow, another close one this week. The difference in this one ended up being Marrow running D-Dance against the banded sucker-locked Shifu to bury the game with that move no matter what. Well played for both, but did the entire league just agree to be entertaining this week? I don't get the sudden series of close games here. Did I miss a memo? Keep it up though, it's top-tier entertainment. Next we have Pineapple versus Hydro in yet another 1-0 game. Pineapple won it, 1-0. Hacks can't stop Pineapple. That said, the Specs trick into Cursed Body was top-tier RNG play. My one question is, why didn't Hydro switch that in on the Lele after the first Calm Mind? Also, why wasn't Starmie Natural Cure instead of Analytic? Opponent brought 3 potential Toxic Clickers and you didn't run Natural Cure on the screen Starmie? Nitpicks aside, well played from both, and especially good composure from Pineapple to not get phased by the hacks. Next we have TG against Pawn. TG won 4-0, and what the... There are so many problems with this game. Time to go through the list. 1. I just watched a Mega Stoys outslow Slowbro in Trick Room, set by the Slowbro. Assuming the Stoys was min speed, the Slowbro needed at least 196 EVs in speed. What were not 196 speed EVs doing on a Trick Room setting Slowbro? That flinch was deserved for what is possibly the single stupidest Slowbro EVing of all time. 2. Pawn straight up forgot how abilities work. 3. That Slowbro was zooming! Why? Time to try to unsee turn 2. My poor brain. Next up, we have Luke against Flip. Flip won 4-0, and we've got the choke of the week. All you had to do, Luke, was click and attack. And you likely sweep. But no, you just had to get a bit greedy on the D-Dance. Tell me, what doesn't lose to +2 attack, +2 speed Mega Guerra on his team? The answer is nothing if you just click and attack. This is why we don't get greedy, especially against the king of body press himself, Megastelix. Now we move to Honedge. And Barak versus SKZ, Barak won by forfeit. Another non-game. How to fill this slot? I can't do crusade logistics, that's my future threat for unavailable replays. How about the Venetian situation and their standing with the current Pope Innocent at the time of the Fourth Crusade? Sound good? I don't care. I'm going to talk about it anyway. Venice was a maritime mercantile city-state located at the top of the Adriatic Sea, situated on a lagoon in what is now eastern Italy. Its main rival was Genoa, another city-state on the other side of the Italian peninsula, and they fought in both war and trade frequently. Venice had expanded south through the Adriatic and into the coastal areas of the Balkans by both peacefully and forcibly making outposts on islands and in coastal areas. The entire city of Venice had been excommunicated by the earlier pope in 1309 over a territorial dispute with the Vatican. This would not be the last time the Venetians would be excommunicated. They seemed to enjoy it. This situation stood until Venice and its leader, the single greatest Chad in history, Doge Enrico Dandolo, were contracted to provide support for the Fourth Crusade, one of the terms of which being the repealment of Venice's excommunication. If there is another forfeit, you will all be subjected to the very long story of how epic Enrico Dandolo was. Play your games. Next, we have Metal against Ironcracker. Metal won 1-0, and a magnificent choke job from Quacker combined with freeze hacks lead to an undeserved victory for Metal. If I were the supreme overlord of TEC, both of you would have been given losses. Metal, you literally brought a pile of garbage over Megapidge when your opponent brought Rilla, a ground Sovali, and when his fairy is Mdia. Speaking of Mdia, that thing was sacked off to set Rock's turn 2. What was that? And then there was the endgame. Oh boy, the endgame. Quacker made the exact sequence of plays required to open himself up to a Hacks loss, and Metal got rewarded by Quacker and RNGesus for bad play. That said, this is Hacks of the Week. Even if poor play allowed it, Hacks is Hacks, and that Ice Beam Freeze was nasty and was a stolen win. Next we have Carl against Pumpkin. Pumpkin won 3-0, and Pumpkin's team really looks better than all of the Smogon Sample Natdex OU ladder teams. Honedge, why did you let this happen? Do you truly desire pain that much? Not much Carl can do against Shifu-esque Ghost Horse Zapdos Mew. Oh yeah, and Pumpkin can bring another 2 Mons. I'm starting a petition to make Pumpkin play a Mon down or play against double-A coaches for the rest of this season. Next we have Jake against Tact. Jake won 2-0, and is that a Sun Excadrill? I love it. Anything can be a Sun Mon. Sun is the best weather. That Ninetales went off. Unfortunately, the favorite Mon of the Ash wannabes on the Natdex AG ladder. They are the problem with that ladder, by the way. AG would be a much better ladder if they would go bother OU or Ubers instead, but I digress. Right. Where was I? Zardex. The favorite Mon of the Ash wannabes turned into a poor man's Linoon and went on to clean in the endgame. Both of you played well, and Jake, that was a great bring. You are most certainly not an Ash wannabe, even if you use the Mon of choice. Great game. Bravo. Next we have Flint against Lobs. Lobs won 1-0. And yes! Pivots! That early game was my dream. Pivot, 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 pivot. The momentum was strong in this one. The Mega Guard D-Bond play was absolutely beautiful, but why no Ice Beam on Stoice? Shell Smash mixed with EQ Ice Beam Rock Slide just won once Quag went down. Why not Ice Beam over Zen Headbutt? Mixed Smash is powerful, and this matchup was made for it. The game was a ton of fun to watch from both sides, and if it weren't for the Stoice set, it would have had a far better ending for Flint. Next, we have Tebow against Scorpion. Tebow won 3-0, and you know, Scorp, if you didn't decide to show off the tech at the end, you had a shot at winning. In fact, your chances of winning were just a little over 50%. If you just click Bug Buzz with Galv on your Gastro turn, Kyurem always kills the Nido and the Golisopod, and kills Maw around 90% of the time at Timid from a Galv min roll. And Golisopod only kills Kyurem 37% of the time with First Impression. You didn't blow a 10% chance or something, you blew a likely win. Check before you throw in the towel next time, because even if a situation looks bad, it may be mathematically better for you than it looks. Both of you have played okay throughout, but I am very disappointed by the ending of this one. Next we have Tank against Herb. Herb won 5-0, and you know Pult's only good if you can get it in safely, right? Use pivots. Motom gets Volt Switch. It was so free on the Volcanion, especially after you saw it stay in the first time. Tank let Herb control the flow of the game and the result shows it. What is it with Pult usage this week? Was there anti-Pult serum in the water? Right after I gave the whole Pult rant, too. Alright, and our final game is Kurthwhack against Shmite. At long last, it's a game worthy of the Orange Award. This award, named after our glorious leader fruit, is given out to recognize the stalliest of endgames, and this one fits the bill. Such glorious PP and status stall at the end. Kurth, on the core of Roost, clicking Strength Sap either extends or wins the game for you, no matter what your opponent chooses to do. And Shmite, that was brilliantly played. Well done. Also, for the first time in the incredibly long, 3-week history of this series, one game gets 2 awards. This is also the game of the week. And I will see you all in week 4.